Well, hey. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I don't know why Facebook would not let me record this live. So thank you for being here anyway. I have this special, beautiful guest. She's a previous client of mine, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. But before I do that, let me introduce myself. I am Marshawn Olanio. I am the founder of Marshawn Olanio Consulting, where I specifically work with Black women. I help them to shift their mindset, to shift their perspective, as well as shift the way that they're showing up in the world with themselves first. Thank you for being a part of reasons why Black women love themselves and their man, because it is very important for us to have spaces for just us to be able to come here, gain the information and tools and strategies that we need in order to go out into the world, love on ourselves, make ourselves a priority, as well as showing up in our relationships and our marriages better. Because this is how we're going to break those generational curses. This is how we are going to feel really good about ourselves, and also understand and know that that life is not just for everybody else. It's for us too. We just got to get the correct tools, the correct strategies, and then implement those into our lives in order to have these better, beautiful Black lives, Black relationships, Black marriages. So without further ado, Zenani, please let the people know who you are. And yeah, just let them know who you are. Tell them exactly what you want them to know. The floor is yours, sis.
Hello, thank you for having me, Marshawn. I am Dee Zenani Mzube. I am a writer, educator, and small business owner, and I'm happy to be here. It's been quite a journey since I met you.
Okay, continue. What about that journey? Let's hear. What about that journey?
Well, since I met you, I left my job. I am a former high school English teacher, so I left my position and I started a business. And then I was so burnt out that I couldn't even continue on. So I took a year off. I was very blessed to be able to do that. I took a year off and I just allowed myself to heal, and heal not only from the grief of my breakup, which we'll get to, but the grief of leaving a career that I'd always wanted to have. So I took a year off, and then I started to run out of money. So so a friend suggested that I start ride sharing. And so I started driving, and just some other opportunities came up that had nothing to do with my initial business idea. And so that's what I'm doing now, is I am building a different life for myself as a small business owner, as a writer, and still educating. So I'm just living my life. And I know that when I met you, there were so many ways in which I was not living my life. So yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that. But before we do that, do you remember our first encounter when we first met each other? And what happened? What were you feeling during that day? Please let the people know, because honey, I remember it.
So yeah, I definitely do remember. It was crazy. You had an event that you had offered. I think it was via Meetup. And I signed up for it, and I thought, oh my gosh, this must be God, because the topic was what happens, what to do or something when your man leaves you. And my man had just recently left me. So I thought, this is crazy. So I signed up for it, and I was actually running late. I showed up, and I think I was like maybe 15 minutes late, and I was really nervous about that because I thought, oh my gosh, there are gonna be all these people here and I'm running late, and I don't like to enter into spaces where, I'm late. So I get there and I'm the only one there. I'm the only one there. And it's such a nice space, and you were looking all gorgeous. I know I was looking tore up because, well, I was at the start of heartbreak. So, but I showed up and you were really gracious and kind, and you basically just worked with me for the duration of the workshop, because nobody else showed up, which I also truly believe was a God thing. Maybe not for you, but for me. So, yeah, you worked with me. I know I did a lot of crying. I do remember that. There was a lot of crying and talking and crying. And toward the end of the workshop time, you offered your services, you offered to work with me. And I said yes.
Yes. Yeah, you said yes. Okay, so you had just had a breakup. Specifically, your man had just left you, right? So now you're just beginning to deal with the grief process when a breakup happens. You happen to see my workshop, you sign up, you're the only person that shows up. We work together. So do you remember some of the work that we did in that moment?
Wow, it's been, what has it been, like 4 years?
It's been a few years. Yeah,
it was 2019, because I do remember the year of my breakup. And it was funny because he left in March, and I believe your event was in April. And so I know that we talked a lot about the specifics of what happened. He and I had been together for about 7 years, which was a 7-year engagement. And he had he had brought home the little reservations from the courthouse to get married 3 different times. And for some reason, I just couldn't go through with it. We talked about that. We talked about just how devastated I was, which in retrospect, I think the devastation came a lot from my ego, not so much from what I really understood to be true. And you kind of walked me through some of the preliminary parts of that. And you offered to come to my home. So that was the best part for me. You offered to come to my home. We met weekly, and we sat and had tea, and we had these conversations, but you also gave me homework.
Homework is a part of it. It's not. Okay, wait. Let me reframe this, because I don't want to call it homework. I want to call it.
Call it what you want.
Okay, I want to call it the best way for you to get from where you at today to where you want to be. Homework, if you want to insert that, fine. But you have to take actions in order to recreate your life, because you were pretty much down in the dumps when we met. Emotionally. Yeah. You were down in the dumps emotionally, and you didn't bring it up, but I was wondering, did you remember us doing the mirror work and what I said to you?
No, I don't remember. I remember I remember the mirror work, but yeah, what did you say?
Okay, when I told you that you'll never feel this way
again. Yes. Yeah, you had me standing, because there were like these mirrors there, which was a really cool space. And you had me stand in front of the mirror, and you told me that the way that I was feeling in that moment, during that time, I was never going to feel that way again. Of course, I didn't believe you, but
I love it. I love transparency. Let's do it.
Yeah, I didn't believe you, but I believe you now.
Believe me now. Okay. All right. So that's where you were when we first met at the workshop. I decided to coach you right then and there, because if you remember, it was a different topic. I wrote out a lot of different stuff to talk about, but when you were the only one that came, I was like, well, we don't have to even talk about this anymore. We
Right.
didn't even talk about the workshop. We talked directly about what you were going through in that moment. And so I literally changed the entire workshop to curate it to what you needed in that moment.
Which was amazing and wonderful. And
Thank
I'm
you.
saying that not only from the perspective of, you know, just being in the space I was in, but I'm saying it also as an educator, you know, the fact that you were able to just pivot like that and to make it a meaningful session for me so that I did want to purchase your services.
Mhm.
That was brilliant.
Okay. Okay. So, well, speaking about that, because you did a perfect segue for me, why did you decide to say yes to work with me?
I
Was it a
decided to,
moment? Was it a feeling? Like what actually happened? What was going on with you to say yes? Because when we started, I don't remember how many hours it was. I think it was about an hour and a half. But when we
it was.
finished, I gave you the offer and you said yes. So what made you come in? You didn't really believe me. We started doing the work. I offered, and then you're like, yes.
I think it was a couple of things. I I felt like my showing up, the nature of the workshop, how it turned into a session, um, how how just down to earth and gracious you were about my experience. You weren't judgmental. You weren't looking down at me like, girl, look at what you did or what you didn't do. And I think the fact that my inner being knew that it was time for me to do something different in terms of my relationships going forward. I think it was all of that. And I think that's the reason why I
Yeah.
decided to work with you.
Yeah, that's powerful. So you heard the calling basically. You understood what your gut was telling you, and you was like, it's time. This is it. Everything is aligning just for me in this moment. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. Everything was aligned. Yes.
Okay. So then we started working together. You already said that it was weekly sessions. I would come to your home. We would have tea and we would have conversations. They were definitely sessions, but I had to make you do a lot of thinking, right? And then homework, as you say, but whatever. So my question is, what did you get from working with me? Wait, before you answer that, have you ever worked with anybody else prior to me,
Not a
whether
relationship.
therapy or coaching?
Therapy, yes. As a matter of fact, I was in therapy when the breakup happened. I almost immediately found a therapist. I think that was a God thing as well. And it was interesting working with you, interesting working with her because um, the messages ultimately aligned, but the paths toward those messages were very different and certainly what I needed. But I'd never worked with a relationship strategist before you.
Okay, okay. And so now that we got that out of the way, what did you get from working with me?
I would say that it was really powerful for me to be able to not sit in a therapist's office, but to also have like this objective ear and voice. Even though like I said, you came to my house, you had tea and everything, we still understood why you were there,
Mhm.
right? And so the level of professionalism, the level of objectivity surrounding my situation was just really important, I think, to my growth and healing. And I enjoyed the homework because you were doing some things that my therapist didn't do. For instance, you had me delve a lot into my family, the family dynamics, of romantic relationships. So there was a lot of journaling around that. And that was really, really good. You know, typically in therapy, they ask you about your mother, or they ask you about your father, but you had me go all the way. So I found myself journaling about the dynamics, even, you know, between my grandparents on both sides, between my great grandparents, between my aunts and uncles, and of course my parents. And just so much clarity came from that about why I was, or why I behaved in certain ways that I behaved. And unlike then, I'm not taking all the charges, because that was something important that my therapist did bring to my attention, how I have a sense of over responsibility. I was taking all the charges because he left.
Okay.
But over time, you know, just doing that kind of work, that kind of deep work, I came to understand, okay, this is my stuff, but I'm not responsible for the entire situation. So that was very important to my healing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about healing just really quickly before we move on. Um, how would you define healing and healing for you? How would you define that? Because a lot when I'm asking because when I get potential clients to come to me and they're like, well, what is healing, or what is the work, and what does it really mean? What does it really look like? So just in your own words, it doesn't have to be, you know, Webster's dictionary, what healing is. We can all go and look that up. But in your own words, what is healing to you? Is it a feeling? Is what is it? Because I feel like you have something.
No, that's a really good question. That's, you know, when people say that, that's a really good question, they're usually stalling. So healing for me is, it's more of an experience. I think there are elements of feeling for me, but a lot of times I don't even know until I am in maybe a situation that is similar, you know, where, you know, I've been here before and wow, I am responding differently. And so that's how I know that healing has taken place in that area.
Mm-hmm.
But
okay, wait, can I stop you? Because I want to break that down really quickly. So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is healing for you, if the same type of situation that you were angry, pissed off, you would react to happened to you in that moment of you healing, on your journey to healing, when you would react differently, when you would show up differently, when you would settle down and respond, you would say to yourself, maybe not in the moment, but later on, okay, I'm doing better in this area, and this is what healing is for me.
yeah, absolutely. Because it's not like this achievement that you know, where you reach this pinnacle where you're just like, ah, you know, it's not that. It's just that, because it's always a journey, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna fall back, you're gonna go 2 steps forward. It's like that. But then when you find yourself just, like I said, responding as opposed to reacting, because those are two different things, then you can see the growth, and that is the growth. And growth so much to me, it's so important to me that I am growing constantly. You know, I have a friend who she once suggested to me that I just stop working on myself for a minute.
Oh, this I gotta hear.
Take a break, Zenani. But and I've tried, I really have, but and I certainly do pick on myself less than I used to. So growth and healing for me looks like, how am I showing up for myself, showing up in my own life? How am I just being honest? Because this is the part that your work really helped me to do just down the road, is I wasn't being honest about what I wanted and what I didn't want. And the fact is, he just beat me to it. He said he was unhappy, but I was unhappy too. And the reality is that I had wanted to leave in 2016. And, he cried, he begged, he was just like, no, we're just not on the same page right now, babe. That whole thing. But I didn't listen to that small voice. And so much of the healing for me is listening to the small voice, not listening to the voices outside me, but really understanding that I get to choose and the door is always open.
Yeah.
And I can choose to stay in this room and confine myself, because prisons are often internal, right? Or I can walk on out that door. And so it was just really important to me to heal that part of myself. And I just feel like I'm in such a better place around that.
So you was giving away your power and you decided no more. It's
Yeah.
mine. I'm going to own my power. It's no longer yours, right? I'm taking it back. I'm choosing to leave. I'm choosing to move forward instead of, like you said, because a prison is here, right? Yes, we know there have physical prisons, absolutely, but a lot of us are still in prison up here because we're not listening to our small voice, or I call that intuition or God, right? The whispers when it gets quiet. And this is where a lot of people are failing because they're running away from the quiet, the things that come up when it's quiet, especially when it gets dark, right? Some people have to scroll all the time. Some people have to play video games all the time or going to the club or whatever your thing is, your numbing agent. So you don't have to listen to your thoughts. That is something that what I'm hearing from you is you no longer do that. You face them, you
Well,
deal with them.
yeah, like I said, there are no, there's not that level of perfection, but that's not even what I'm seeking. I'm just seeking the ongoing growth. And with regard to taking the power back, that that wasn't really my story because I never had the understanding of the power. So it wasn't even taking it back. Like I hadn't had in the first place because I didn't know about it. So there was nothing to take back. It was really new to me. This has really been new to me, and it has been super duper painful. But I did reach this, I guess, this middle of the road where I came to understand that the pain wasn't necessarily or chiefly about him leaving. It was really about my having left myself a long time ago. And that's where the work really, really started to take on a life of its own. And in terms of the healing, also, I would have to say, we all come to that differently. Like I said, I'm a writer. So your homework was really helpful in the sense that I'm already journaling, and I was so crazy up in my house. My friends would come to my house, and I know you saw this too, where I'd have like Post-its.
I
No,
actually love them. I actually love going to use your restroom because I'm like, what she got up in here? Let me read these. Oh, that's a good one. So I loved it. I really felt like it was a pivotal part of your healing,
it
being able to
was.
take in all this beautiful messaging for yourself.
Yeah. And I needed to be able to read that and see that every day because I think that when you are healing, it's a sort of rewiring,
It
right?
is.
It's a rewiring of the heart and the mind. And so I'm a visual learner. So I needed all that,
I love it.
Yeah.
I was inspired. It's funny because I would literally want to go to your bathroom to read all your stuff. Like I was like, what? Like, no, I really felt that that was a powerful thing. And guess what? I even tell my clients to do that now because I was like, oh, child, yes, right here, this is it. This right here is it. I felt empowered by just using your toilet, okay? Washing my hands, and I'm coming up out of there like, yes, 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 and more, yes. I don't think I've ever shared that with you, but yeah, like
Oh,
literally, that's. I'm not gonna say it's with everybody because it depends on where they're at, but
yeah.
yeah, I felt like that was a powerful tool for you to just because you are a writer, like, and you're visual. I need to see this. And you were taking in this new energy and the newness for yourself. You were rewiring yourself. And so I thought that that was excellent.
Yeah, and I also want to just address really fast,
Yeah.
really quickly, the idea of that quiet place, because that is so important that you were referring to. And for me, working with you was also during that time, I'd always gone in and out of sitting meditation, but it was the time to where I just really dedicated myself to meditation. And there were days, usually, you know, I meditate in the morning before I went to work, but there were days where I was meditating 3 times a day. Like I was just in it. And I would do lying meditation, but it was a quiet place. And a quiet place is a scary place. I'm not a scroller. I'm an introvert. So I'm not usually just sort of distracted by outside forces, but I am distracted by this inside force. It's a crazy brain. It's a crazy brain. So I would find myself during some of those meditation sessions just on my back because I couldn't even sit up sometimes. I was just in such grief. So I would just lie on my back and I'd be, you know, in meditation and I would just cry and cry and cry. I remember this really embarrassing time, but I guess it was necessary. I had gone to, I was taking yin yoga and I'd gone to yoga class and you know, you're on your back and the room is dark and I just couldn't stop crying. And I felt bad because I'm sure I was disrupting other people's experiences with their yoga, but I was like,
oh, you was doing one of the ugly cries.
I'm a total ugly crier. I get down.
Listen,
yeah, you do need that quiet place. I just wanted to speak to that.
You need the quiet place, but you also need to face what's coming up. And so I'm sure the people probably remember in the yoga class.
Thank you.
But at the same time, it was very therapeutic for you. It was what you needed. And you were able to release that stuff in that moment. Maybe not everything in the moment, but you were able to release so you can get up again.
Yes.
Up, right? It's literally and figuratively, it was time to get up.
Yeah, and it really was, you know, and teaching every day. Like I said, I'm teaching teenagers, you know, and I didn't give them details, but I did tell them because a few of my students, they were just like, Miss Nzube, you're a little off. And I'm like, I am off and I'm going through a breakup. And, you know, teenagers know a lot about going through breakups. So, you know, but it was just so wonderful. Even just wherever I went, whether it was you, whether it's my therapist, my friends, suddenly I had a friend group because it was crazy. Just being surrounded in light and love. And I think that that's the other part, you know, when you have community, it is so important.
Yeah, community is so important. Okay. So speaking of community, I would like to, because I know we're getting ready to wrap it up. Speaking of community, can you share a nugget or two with the community about anything that is important to you that you feel that they could get from being a part of the community, maybe working with me, maybe not, but just anything that you want to impart to them to say, hey, I went through this, I get it. It may be time for you to lean in and do what you need to do. So anything that you would like to impart to them?
One thing I would say is if anybody in your community is in pain, if they're going through a breakup, if they've been through, you know, a divorce or whatever, it is painful. But on the other end of that, the bigger relationship is with yourself. The bigger work, that it's actually with yourself. Because when I started with you, Marshawn, it was for, you know, honestly, I was hoping to get back with him. I was hoping, my heart was, and I think you asked me this at one point, like, what do you want? out of this, this experience. And one of the things that I said was that I wanted my man back, right? But what I discovered was I really wanted me. I really wanted me back. Whatever, and not even me back. I really wanted to be to be to be more evolved. And that's with myself. And it's interesting when you're alone, right? When you're alone, you can be evolved because you're doing all the right things. But when you are in relationship with another person, that's when all the tests come up. Have you healed? Have you evolved? And I'm sort of dating somebody right now, and he's actually somebody from my past that we had these conversations about who we were, who we are now. And I just think the most important relationship, even though it's cliche, is going to always be with yourself and with, spirit.
I love. Listen, I don't even gotta say it because I say that all the time. Like, that's my thing. My thing is starting with you. Everything starts with you.
Yes.
Everything starts with you. And as much as we would like to blame and point the finger at all these other people and all the people that we need to forgive that have hurt us, at the end of the day, it is all you.
Yeah. And it ends with you. It ends with you. If you think about
it. but also you are choosing to show up one way or another. Whether it's in a positive light or negative light, it is all your choice to do. And so I am so happy that you came today. I am so happy that you decided to say yes to the conversation with me. And now I'm saying yes to the conversation with you because I know that it makes a difference. And especially with these beautiful Black sisters.
Yes.
You are helping somebody in ways that you don't even realize that you are.
Well, you helped me. So, this is all about us helping each other. I personally feel that Black women, we're on like some kind of spiritual movement. I look all around me and I'm just like, we are on the spiritual movement. And I think that movement is toward ourselves.
You're right. We're gonna wrap it up, but like just the movement that you're talking about, like even with a lot of us, not everybody, embracing the texture of our hair and just rocking our stuff. It doesn't mean you can't rock somebody else's, but we rocking our stuff. We're not leaning into what society says is beauty. We are creating our own story. We are writing our stories our way. And it's such a beautiful thing to watch and witness and even be a part of, because it took me a while to embrace even the color of my hair. I used to dye my hair all the time because I didn't like my gray pattern. For the longest time, I had a crown of white, and then you would turn around and see this brown hair. Like, what is happening, God, for real?
So, I'm not there yet, but yeah, that's the same thing for me. I'm just like, oh my God, I don't want to be looking like some old man with the gray sideburns.
Right. but now I'm just embracing who I am, who I be, and the people that I'm going to attract into my world, into my life, and into my circle. You're gonna rock with it or you're not. You're either gonna get me or you're not. And so I'm sick and tired of showing up in a way that says I have to meet what you want me to be. I'm gonna be who I want to be. I want you to be who you're gonna be. And I want everybody else that's listening to this, and reasons why Black women love themselves and their man, we gotta do better. But because we are our own answer. You are your own answer. I was my own answer. Zenani was her own answer. And so you got to take responsibility for what you want your life to look like, and including but not limited to your relational life. And it's the relationship with yourself first, the relationship with your spouse or partner, the relationship with your child or children, the relationship with your parent or parents, right? We're in relationship all the time with people. So before I start anew, I am going to end this, but I wanted to thank you so much, Zenani, for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. And if you have any questions, put them down below. Zenani is in the group. She can answer. I'm in the group. Obviously, I can answer. And I want to start doing these more and more. So thank you so much for being here. And we're going to see you next time. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.